You're listening to InfoQuench with Jeff.
And Amy, a podcast on how to be more efficient.
And effective
In everyday life.
All right, everybody, welcome to episode number 8 of InfoQuench. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Amy. This episode is actually on tidying up paper. So if you've been following our episodes, you'll know that we are Marie Kondo fans, and this is the next step of the KonMari method.
And if you aren't, already a Marie Kondo fan, I highly recommend you maybe check it out. We're not like, devoted fans. We're not like doing the...
We're kind of devoted fans.
Well, I guess we are.
We have done multiple episodes on her, so that would probably qualify.
All right,
as devoted fans.
I guess. Does that mean I have to get rid of my Marie Kondo t-shirt?
We might have to, cancel the cover-up of the Marie Kondo tattoo.
Yeah. That'd be so funny.
Yeah, that would be really... I bet you somebody's got one.
This tattoo sparks joy all over my back.
So Marie Kondo, of course, has Tidying Up on Netflix, and we read her book years ago. It goes a little bit more into detail in the categories of tidying up. So this category is paper, and that's what we're going to talk about today.
I found paper to be the most tedious of all of them, more than clothing, more than the others.
Well, what's interesting about the paper category is it's the one category where you're not aiming to decide whether or not something sparks joy. So in this category, if you have an item of paper that is potentially something that might spark joy, so for instance, a greeting card or a love letter, something that might be sentimental, it'll actually be handled in a separate category of sentimental items. So this is really just pieces of paper that have no meaning to you whatsoever in terms of feelings.
Receipts and whatever, just any paper in your entire home. So, okay, let's go through, what do you do?
Yeah, so as we did with clothing, as we did with books, with paper, it's no different. You have to gather everything up, as painful as it is, go through your entire house.
Every drawer.
We had a huge bucket. We basically went through, every drawer, every room.
Every single room.
Put every scrap of paper into the bucket. It was a big bucket.
But not books, because books are a completely separate... I mean, books are obviously made of paper, but they are not considered paper.
I'm sure there's some books that aren't made of paper.
Yeah, that's true.
Topic for another podcast, but
yeah.
No, not
that's
books. That's
going to be riveting stuff too.
Not
books that aren't made of paper. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Not books, not sentimental items, but every other scrap of paper you got around your house. And I'm talking Post-its, receipts, every little bit of paper magic. Mm-hmm. Bring them into one spot, pile them on your floor. We piled them in the middle of our living room floor, which also forces you to deal with them because otherwise you have a pile of paper on your floor for multiple days.
The thing is that I think that what made this subject so tedious to me was that you literally have to look and make a decision on every single little piece of paper. I mean, some of them are just like, I don't need this receipt for nothing. Get rid of this. But sometimes you really got to figure it out, because what if you had to return that item? You got to wonder whether or not you need to keep that receipt.
So that's exactly why we're going to go through a process that'll help us figure that out.
That's right. Let's get going with that process.
So step one, gather up
we
all
can
those...
have lots of fun. Sorry. Isn't that
Step two,
New
there's
Kids
so
on the
much
Block?
No, is it?
I think it is.
So much we can do?
Yeah, I think it is New Kids on the Block.
I'm going to have to... You're the music expert. I'll have to take your...
I'm pretty sure it's New Kids on the Block.
All right, New Kids on the Block.
I did have a fan club, so
all right.
I was Team Jordan.
The tangents are alive and well in this episode.
Yeah, let's get going.
So once you gather up all the papers, that's the most important step one. Step two is to make sure you make yourself a drink.
Yes, and I got one too. You can't really hear it, but let's hear the...
Aperol. That was the worst clink. That was the sound of a beer can against a glass. Once more for effect.
Oh, geez, we almost broke it.
The can or the glass? Step two, make a drink, because you're going to be sitting down on your floor going through paper in the long haul.
Yeah.
So first off, get rid of stuff that you just is immediately garbage. So if it's not things that you have to keep long term or have to be dealt with in some way, just
chuck it right away.
Recycle
just
it.
Get it.
So
get going.
I would suggest, for the purposes of protecting your identity, I know a lot of people recently well, personally, I know people who've suffered from identity theft. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
important that when you're going through papers, if you have anything that, maybe has your address or any
kind
personal
of bank
information,
statement or
anything like that. It's
Yeah,
probably a good
I
idea
agree.
to invest in shredding that
They're
material.
They're cheap now, anyways.
So maybe get a clearer recycling bag handy and things that you need to shred. Put that in the bag and then and get them shredded and discarded securely.
Yeah.
And then everything else can just go into your regular paper recycling. So then, as you're going through it, there are some things that you are going to need to keep. And so there's basically two categories that Marie Kondo talks about: things that have to be dealt with, and then things that you have to save indefinitely.
Yeah.
So things that have to be dealt with might be a letter you need to reply to, a form that needs to be filled out. Maybe it's just a newspaper clipping that you wanted to read and then you can discard of it.
Yep.
So you have a section that's basically, these are the papers I need to process, deal with them. And then everything else are things that you need to save indefinitely. Now, the things that you need to deal with and get rid of, she suggests that pile should almost always be empty. And we actually have a spot. Our spot in our house is probably not the best spot. We basically have a corner of our kitchen counter where we put all of the papers that are sort of coming into the house. So things that are usually coming in by mail, and they're put there, and we deal with them within a day or two. And one of the key concepts of the KonMari method is if you have papers that have to be dealt with, you should keep them in one location in your house. She suggests a vertical filing unit.
Right.
I mean, if you
Which
had
is pretty fancy for us.
it sounds pretty fancy.
It's too fancy.
Corner of the kitchen counter works for us. We just
Nice try, Marie Kondo.
Nice
try.
Nice try. I'm sure she has some $300 vertical filing units.
She probably
for
does.
Papers
They're
that
probably
need to be
gold plated and spotless.
You can't blame her.
You can't blame her at all.
So I guess the key is have the spot where you put papers that need to be dealt with, deal with them, and try to keep the spot empty. Keep things moving through there relatively quickly.
Things tend to migrate to the top of our fridge every once in a while, and I do believe that's my fault.
Yes, I do believe that's completely your fault.
Yeah. Next.
Yeah, we're not perfect.
No,
we don't
we're
claim
not.
to be.
Well, sometimes I'm just like, where should this paper go? Like, it hasn't been dealt with for a couple of weeks. I'll just put it on top of the fridge.
I think the top of the fridge is a very
Yeah.
common filing place for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're in good company.
What can you do?
So when you have things coming in and you deal with them and then move on, but sometimes what's hard is to try to deal with the stuff that you have to keep indefinitely. So these are things like, you have the things that are really long-term, insurance policies, for instance. Maybe you have warranties or lease
Manuals.
information. Well, not even manuals would be something that you might have to reference more regularly, but things that you just sort of have to keep on hand because you may need them down the road, but you don't really need to look at them until something happens. So she suggests just keeping all of that in one spot. It doesn't really need to be further organized. Just have those indefinite documents that you have to hold on to saved in one location.
Makes sense, actually. It really does, because if something does go wrong and you do, for example, I guess you need to find a warranty. Well, you know exactly where all of the warranties are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we mentioned manuals, so we have a designated spot for our manuals.
We do. It's a wooden box.
It's a wooden box.
Upstairs.
That's right. We have one wooden box where every time we get anything, we put our manuals in there.
Yeah.
Some people try to keep their manuals near the belonging.
Item,
So
yeah.
near the, if it's a television, you want to keep your manual near that. I don't agree with that. I think keeping all of your manuals in one spot keeps your paper gathered.
I like to tape the manual to the TV right to the front of the TV.
Yeah, you
so
would.
we always know where it is. Put the toaster right in the toaster.
But I mean, truth be told, we consolidated our manuals to one location.
Yeah, no, we did.
Like 3 years ago, and now when we look for a manual,
we're pretty vigilant about that. I know, and I even
anything.
ask you still. I'm like, where's the?
And I'm like, it's in the manual box.
And I'm like, right, the manual box. And then, where's the manual box from upstairs? I'll yell down, and then you'll be like, it's on the 4th cube of the black storage unit. And I'm like, oh, there it is. Boom, right there.
And this
right
is
in
when
front
I
of me.
accuse you of man looking.
Man looking. That's right, yeah.
Do you know what man looking is?
I do. You don't move anything.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
basically...
I'm a man, I know.
It's like when you're looking in the fridge for something and
Yeah.
it's like it's
Where's the
behind
ketchup?
one other object.
It's behind the
You're like,
mustard.
we're all out of it. I have to
Yeah.
buy 3 more. But no, it was just behind. You had to move something first.
Tangent number 15.
So having one spot for your manuals is definitely handy. One thing to consider though is whether or not you need to hold on to all of your manuals.
Yeah, you don't need the you don't need the manual for the remote control car that Huxley had when he was 2.
Well, it's a good idea to periodically go through them.
Yeah.
And because how many times do we come across a manual for something that we no longer own?
Oh,
And
many
also,
times.
A lot of times, you know what? You can find it online. So
Yeah.
people are probably not even looking up their manual. They're just Googling or checking out a YouTube video to address whatever they need to address. So having the manual might, is probably a little old school. We still like to hold on to them. But just go through them periodically.
Go through them and get rid of the ones you don't need anymore. And then digitally get the manual if you can.
So we have a spot for our manuals, and we also have a spot where we just keep all of our receipts. Same thing. You want to hold on to your receipts for a certain amount of time, but you
Same
don't
thing.
need...
I can't find it ever.
No.
Anyway, sorry.
As long as one person in the family knows where it's at, you're all good.
Yeah.
But, going through them periodically, you don't need receipts for things you don't know, no longer own.
No, you don't. Why would you do that?
No, exactly.
It makes no sense whatsoever.
So then the third area we would have we have a drawer that's designated for everything that has to do with our taxes. So knowing that once a year we're going to have to do our taxes, I have one drawer in our home where everything goes as
Right.
far, things that might be, if we make a charitable donation, there's a receipt for that, things that we might be able to claim, T4s that come in, anything of that nature, RRSP information, it all goes into that drawer.
Yep.
So once a year, we do a purge. As we go through our taxes, I'll go through that drawer and get the information that I need to do our taxes, hold on to what I need to for, you have to keep your tax information for a set amount of time. Everything else can be shredded. At that same time, I go through our receipts and our manuals. So by doing that, you kind of keep things cycling out and keep things at a manageable level. And then the fourth thing is...
Notice that I'm noticeably quiet when it comes to taxes because I don't know anything about taxes.
I know that. Well, this is well...
Man, I must sound like the
if
most
I die
useless
tomorrow,
guy on this
if I die
podcast.
tomorrow, you can listen to this episode and know where everything's at.
Well, you were supposed to do me a cheat sheet, remember?
Yeah, I know that. When I die, cheat sheet.
But let's not tell everybody what's in the cheat on our
cheat sheet.
cheat sheet.
Easy for you to say.
Oh, Sapporo, my love for you will never die. As a matter of fact, I'm going to indulge right now. Go ahead, honey.
All right, I'll carry on.
Take it away.
I'll carry on. So, in going through the papers once a year, it just kind of keeps everything manageable. So I talked about manuals, receipts, and then all of our financials or tax information. And then the fourth thing are the real indefinite stuff you probably don't have to go through every year, but you need to keep in a safe place. So those are the things like your insurance policy.
Yeah.
I don't know, a deed to your house. That
The
really
stuff that we got done to the
information.
house, that's always really good to have handy.
So that type of stuff we actually keep in a fireproof box.
Yes, with like other important things like passports and stuff, right?
Exactly. So what's key for us is that if, for instance, the refinery that we live near should explode.
Which it almost did not too long ago.
It's nice to know.
We got out of Dodge
We got out of Dodge.
right away.
It's nice to have basically a box, a fire box with all of your important documentation.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the go box, right? You can grab it and go and know that you have everything. Now we'll talk about the category of sentimental items because we do also have a keepsake box.
Yeah.
And I like the
don't we?
idea if we have to leave our house, on a very short notice.
We just grab that keepsake box.
Yeah, we grab the keepsake box and have some of the key information that we might have that we want to carry on with us, and have our key documents from our proof box, and we're good to go. And
Knowing me, I'd grab the wrong box and we would end up with a bunch of taxes. Where's the keepsake box? The fire is almost... Yeah, anyway. No, I hear you though. Like the keepsake box, nobody wants to lose their pictures, whatever,
Right.
other things.
And we'll talk about sentimental items in another episode, but I like the idea of in an emergency, you know what you need and what you can take with you.
Yeah,
And truly,
I
the
agree.
majority of stuff in our house is just stuff, but there are a few key items that we want to have with us. So in keeping with, the KonMari method, one of the things that we want to do is avoid having more clutter enter our house. When it comes to paper, that usually comes in the form of mail. So I would encourage you, if you have things that are coming by paper, bills, credit card statements, find out if those can be provided electronically.
Yeah.
If they can come by email,
It's the best.
It's
You
better.
just-
And sometimes there's even savings to be had. I know that
notification, and then that's
some
it.
companies charge extra if you want to have your bills by paper because it costs them in terms of postage and processing.
Yeah.
So you may actually save money, but it's worth sometimes a phone call just to avoid getting that monthly piece of paper that you may be getting rid of anyway.
See how paperless you can go, people.
Well, I mean, with a credit card statement, you're just going to look at it, and then also it's something you have to
Yeah.
shred because it has some confidential information on it. So then
Honestly,
you have
it's
to
the same
discard
thing
it.
with a bank statement, bank
Well-
statement. I can't talk tonight. Anyway,
It's okay.
hopefully,
I'll talk enough for the both of us.
all right.
So just, having that information sent by paper is also security risk. So if you can cancel some things, maybe you have flyers that are coming from a local newspaper that you don't really
Yes.
need, that are just, again, adding to the clutter.
And it's a call. Like we had that problem a while back. A local company was delivering flyers, and we didn't want them anymore. It was a call, and then boom, gone.
Right.
There's that much less, recycling that you're doing every week.
And
Because it's every week.
We really get very few items now by mail. We
Mm.
get some things from, charities and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But very few, and even junk mail, we don't get a lot of junk mail coming through. So,
But if you do, you can always put a little sticker on your mail slot that says, "Please no junk mail," and they won't give it to you.
I've
Usually.
never tried that. I don't know if it works.
Yeah, it works.
'Cause I know we live in uptown St. John, and I know a lot of people do put those on their mailboxes.
Occasionally it works. I mean, even if it works like 50% of the time, it's better than not at all.
If that's something you've tried and it worked for you, let us know if that works
Yeah,
for you.
let
'Cause
us
I'd
know
be
on
curious
our
to know
Facebook
if that's something that the post
Yeah.
office follows, or I know that they have a set amount that they have to deliver. So
In all honesty, we get a fair amount of junk mail. We really do.
not.
Like,
I mean,
like not like armfuls, but we get ones for like pizza places and
we
places.
say a fair amount, but we probably get like 5
Yeah.
or 6 pieces a week, which really isn't that much.
Yeah, you're right. That's too much for me, man.
But the key is really when that stuff comes in, put it straight into the recycling bin, and then it's not causing clutter. So
After you get the pizza, though. Anyway, go ahead.
other options in terms of you have documents that you want to keep indefinitely. There are some documents that can be scanned and stored electronically, so that could be
Good
an
point.
option.
Yeah,
So
good point.
so they're not taking up space in your home.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you really have some designated areas, it doesn't need to be a lot of space. Paper, if it's kept at a manageable level, if you're dealing with things that need to be dealt with and moving them through your home and getting them back out, you really shouldn't have a ton of paper to have to deal with.
Yeah.
And the stuff that you have to keep in terms of insurance certificates and things like that, and it's quite minimal. So just to recap, having a designated area for your tax information, financials that you're going through once a year, along with your receipts and your manuals, and then having another location where you have your indefinites that maybe in
Yeah.
a fireproof box, something that's a grab box if you need to leave on short notice from your home, that you can grab that and it's in a fire safe box.
And make sure when you're grabbing all that paper, you grab all that paper. Don't leave any paper behind, because you're going to have to go through this process again, and you don't want to do that.
Oh, you mean when you're gathering
When you're
up all the
gathering
paper
it
to
all
go
up,
through it?
make sure you get it all.
Yeah, be ruthless.
Go to your basement, get all the paper that's down there, everywhere.
If it's made of paper,
Yeah.
grab it.
Yep. But not books. We went through that.
But not books.
Not books.
So probably one of the least exciting categories for KonMari, but I think it's something that's necessary, and probably we've all been through the point where we were trying to find one scrap of paper with important information on it in your house,
Yeah.
and it's so frustrating when you can't locate it.
I'm
So
curious, how many KonMari categories are there? Out of curiosity. So we've done.
Okay, so we've gone through clothing was
Yeah.
the first one.
That's right.
Then we went through books.
Right.
We've gone through paper.
Yes.
The next one
Sentimentals?
is kimono,
Kimono.
which is miscellaneous.
Oh,
Which
okay.
is like a variety of objects around your home. And then the last one is, the fifth one is sentimental items.
Oh, okay. Great.
But for our next episode, we're going to take a little KonMari break and we're going to talk about manners. So this will be our first episode
Manners for
that's
children.
really, talking about parenting.
Yes.
We talked a little bit about our son Hux. Huxley's turning 6 this month.
He's our only child.
He's our only child. And we talked about doing some parenting tips on our podcast. So this will be the first episode that sort of focuses on parenting, and we're going to talk about manners.
Yes, that's going to be exciting. I can't wait for that one. I hope you guys can't wait for it too. Thanks so much for listening to InfoQuench, and we'll see you in the next podcast.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks so much for listening.
And be sure to visit us at InfoQuench.com to subscribe and find out about future episodes.
You can also check out InfoQuench on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Till next time, friends.